Chopper Guy 53? That's where you can find him, Chris Hauser. Chopper Guy 53. That's Instagram, Snapchat. Instagram. That's where you can find him.
Are we on right now?
We are on. Hey, it's Kenny with Helicopter Online Ground School. We're going to go over here in just a minute, and Chris Hauser is going to talk you through what he likes about the Cabri now he's been teaching it for a couple years. Real quick before we go to the helicopter, there's 2 PDFs down below for my Amazon bestsellers, Helicopter Check Ride and Top 10 Check Ride Tips. Both of them down below this video. No charge. They're good books. People love them. So Chris, before we go over to the helicopter, tell people where they can find you if they're interested in flying with you in the Cabri.
I work for Sweet Aviation in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's our home base, but we also have a second aircraft at the Goshen Airport in Goshen, Indiana.
So their web address is what?
SweetAviation.com.
And you are Chopper Guy 53?
Chopper Guy 53 on Instagram.
All right, Chopper Guy 53. Let's head over to the aircraft and we're going to check it out. So let's do it. All right, we moved over to the aircraft. I want to just quickly intro where I'm at. I've done 3 hours so far with Chris in the Cabri. My first flight was with Chris a year ago in Fort Wayne. I went and did an intro, and I really liked how he described the Cabri that day and what he liked about it and why he felt it was a good trainer. So I want him to share that with you on camera and kind of give me that intro, the same one that you gave me, and just tell people what do you like about the Cabri and why you think it's a good trainer.
So what I like about this is that, one, fully articulated rotor system. A lot of inertia, even though it's a smaller helicopter, there's a lot of inertia in those blades. The auto rotation in this is very nice. The arc that I have to keep my rotor speed in, wide range, so it auto is very nice. The Fenestron tail system on here is it's not the traditional tail rotor as you would see on any other aircraft. The EC-120, the EC-130, they have the Fenestron tail system. Same manufacturer, same person who designed the 120 designed this. So that's where the Fenestron comes from. It's got a lot of tail rotor authority. It's quieter. It's kind of got a cool sound to it when it's out there running. Safety-wise, I'm not going to walk into that tail rotor. So it's a pretty nice system there. What else we got here? It is a carbureted engine. However, the carb heat is automatic, so I have a switch in there to make sure it's working properly. I don't even have to worry about carb heat. Rotor engagement, I have a switch on the console for the rotor engagement, so I don't even have to worry about trying to, like the instruments, raise a lever and match it and all that. It does it all for me. So that's nice about it. Also has a rotor brake. That doesn't seem like it's such a big deal. However, when you're sitting there after you shut down and you're just waiting for those blades to stop for safety reasons, it's nice to have a rotor brake. So we got one of those in there. What else we got going on?
I know
go ahead.
Earlier today I was talking with Brian and I told him what we were going to do tonight, just a general overview of the Cabri, and he said, hey, if you guys would, when you talk a little bit about what's in the aircraft, the instrumentation, what it has, and he goes, go a little bit into that if you would. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving us the scoop on the interior of the aircraft and what it has available.
Should turn it on. Should we turn it on?
You just go, yeah, go over there if you want to, Larry.
Let it get going right here. Yeah. So while I've flipped on the master, while it's booting up, going through its self-checks, what's also nice, these seats have been crash test rated. I think it's the only piston helicopter that I know that actually crash test rated. So they are crash test rated up to 2,000 feet per minute. In theory, you could do an auto in this thing and not flare at the very end and hit, and you're supposed to be able to walk away, because we do autos probably about 1,500, 1,600 foot a minute, so they're crash test rated up to 2,000 feet, so that's kind of nice. Now, as my instrument panel is coming alive here, there's only, as of last year, there was about 30, 33, 35 of these in the U.S. That was a year ago, so there might be 40 of them now in the U.S. They're starting to gain momentum. As you can see, it's all digital, except for the analog here, a couple there, just as our backup instruments, but everything is all digital on our display. This is what we call the EPM, our electronic pilot monitor. It's all digital. There's my rotor tack. There's my, what we call the MLI, the multiple limits indicator. So basically our power. And then of course our gauges there are digital. Fuel gauges over and to the right. So I can quickly read to see how much fuel I got in there. I don't have to try to squint, or I don't have to try to look at a gauge and look at hash marks. It tells me exactly what's on there. And that fuel gauge is really accurate. We got an Aspen in here for navigation, along with our attitude indicator there. So it's a very modern cockpit. We got a Garmin 650, which if you guys know about Garmin's, they pretty much do, each one gets better. This is a touch screen, so it's nice that I can just touch the screen, push in my frequencies, or push in direct to or whatever. It's a nice system. The heat works pretty good in here. You can fly with one or both doors off. That's pretty much standard. What else was there?
You know, one thing I like is how easy those tail rotor, or the pedals are to change. Very easy to flip those up and flip down. Some helicopters are a lot more cumbersome when you go to switch that.
Yeah, so like the Instrum, where you got to take them out and flip them over and all that, these are pretty set up real nice. There's only two positions. That's one of the downfalls. There's only two positions, either full forward or we can flip them back. And they've made it so you can do that while you're sitting in the seat. So if you climb in, you get buckled in, and then you realize, you know, I don't really like that position, you can just use your feet to flip them back the other way. Governor, that's one thing I really like about this. If you have any training in the Instrums, which that's what I grew up with, basically that's what I trained with Kenny in, we just had a correlator in that one, so you're always manipulating the throttle on this. On this one, we got the governor. As soon as they roll up to 400, the governor takes over, brings it up to normal operating RPM, and then it just stays there for me, so I don't have to worry about that. So, fully articulated system, governor, rotor brake, automatic clutch engagement, automatic carb heat, crash test rated seats. I mean, I'll put all those together and you got a very well designed trainer for the student.
Now, I remember you talking in that first intro where you introed for me, intro the helicopter to me, you were talking about the skids. Go a little bit into the benefit of the skids on the aircraft.
Okay, so the skids on this aircraft are not directly mounted to the fuselage to help with ground resonance, which you know about ground resonance.
Yes, I know all about it.
You know all about that. So the skids, so what they've done is they've just set the skids on the ground, they've taken the fuselage of the body, and they've put a couple of rubber bushings on top of the skid bows, and then they've just set the fuselage down on top of there, and then they put a couple brackets to help support the skids from moving. But the skids are not directly, there is no bolts that go directly through the skid bows to the fuselage, and that's to help with ground resonance. So there's a couple of brackets with the bushings on the front and rear skid bows that you have to check as part of the pre-flight checklist, making sure that those are straight. So I have seen a picture where the fuselage has slid on the skid bow and is actually laying on its side, and the skids are sitting perfectly on the ground. So that's one thing, part of the pre-flight check, is that you check to make sure that the fuselage is sitting center on the skid bow. And again, that's all about helping with ground resonance.
All right, I'm gonna have Gloria swing the camera over here because we gotta show one of the Sweet Aviation helicopters, and here's Randy Gingrich, one of your fellow pilots up at Goshen, so we thought we'd show that. Several of the Cabris are up here on the wall for our Hogs members that have done ratings with Chris, so that would have been with you, right? Randy would have been with you.
Yep.
Yep. If you mention real quick our Hogs Wall of Fame, since we haven't mentioned it in this video yet, this is our member Wall of Fame. This started a couple years ago. We were in this old, nasty airport hangar with this gross wood paneling, and I said, you know, we should start putting up these pictures that our members are sending us when they're happy and they pass their check ride. And we started flashing them all over the wall, right? And pretty soon it got really ugly on top of this ugly paneling. So when we moved over here, we developed the Hogs, and we already called it the Wall of Fame, but now it really is the Wall of Fame, and we're pretty proud of this. So when members send us a picture after their check ride, because they're excited, passing any of their ratings, we put them up on the Hogs Wall of Fame, so I wanted to mention that is what's here behind us. All right, next thing popping into my mind is the baggage area. I remember kind of, Ruben, give us a little bit about the baggage.
So we do have a little bit of baggage space here. 88 pounds is your max for back here. So, but you can see the hole here. You can pretty much squeeze a backpack in there. You can, this shelf comes out or folds down. You can, maybe a small suitcase in there. But what's nice about it is that you have access to it from the pilot's seat. There's an access panel or an access hole that sits right behind the pilot's head. And you know, you can throw a wallet up there or throw your phone up there or keys or something. And if you need it during flight, you can just reach back there and grab it. So it's kind of nice. There is space under the seats, but we don't put anything under the seats because of the seats are able to collapse down as part of that crash test rating. And there is a little bit of a luggage area on the front by the co-pilot's feet, but you can't get to it during flight, especially if you're by yourself. But the passenger even can't reach for it. So, but it's about as big as maybe a lady's hand purse or purse or something small to put in there.
I really like that. That's really handy that it's, as you mentioned, some of the other helicopters, you might have room underneath the seat, but then that can be a problem if you did have a hard landing. This is really nice where this is located. It's right close, and that you could reach through to set a phone in there or something that you needed to have access to. That's pretty handy. I like what they did there.
And they made this as a step too, a built-in step for you. So you got the step there on the skid bow, and then a homemade step here, and then that way you can climb up there and check the rotor head.
All right, I think one thing I want to relay about the aircraft is, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm in my 3rd hour with you. I'm going to do 2 more hours, so I have the 5 hours to technically be able to teach in one if I wanted to. And I wanted to reiterate, we did a video the first time I went to fly with Chris, and I'll put the link down below for that one. But the first time I flew this, because for over 20 years I've been flying counterclockwise systems, I was really intimidated the first time I got in and flew the clockwise system. And the first time I picked it up, I was all over the place. And it's kind of a funny video, and people actually made a comment like, hey, at least you were honest that it kind of humbled you, and it did. So I came back after that first hour where it kind of kicked me in the rear, and I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to fly that thing anymore, right? And then I've since went back and had 2 more flights. The second flight was way better than the first, because I kind of got in the mindset after talking to people that are going, they're kind of saying, well, maybe you're overthinking a little bit, right? Because a lot of people just transition over, and I let the opposite pedal and all that stuff intimidate me. But once I spent a little time thinking about it, went back, my second flight was way better than the first. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's a mind thing, like you were saying.
I think so too.
Yes, it takes a little bit after growing up doing all counterclockwise, jumping into this. It's a little bit different. Now I had some time in the 120s and the 130s, so I had a little bit of knowledge of the clockwise system. But it's kind of what you told me a long time ago, is you just do opposite of what the aircraft is doing. So in the picking up, if that nose is swinging to the left, who cares if it's counterclockwise or clockwise? You're just going to add right pedal. So, but I try to, sometimes I find myself as I'm flying these thinking back. My trainer who trained me, I'll never forget, he just gave me a simple little advice. Act like that collective is connected to your left leg. If that collective is going down, that means your left leg is going down, which means you're pushing in left pedal. And that stuck with me. I tell everybody that. I said, if you're lowering collective, that left leg's going with it, it's pushing in that left pedal. And I remember that as I'm flying, and even if I think I might get backwards or trying to remember which one's what, that's a nice little keynote there.
That helped me a lot on this last flight that we did. You saying that, then it started finally making sense that I wasn't so intimidated by it anymore, doing the opposite aircraft. And that made a lot of sense when you said that. And then to reiterate on what you already said, it's kind of like when you just go back to the basics of just do what it takes, right? When I was overthinking left, right, counterclockwise, clockwise, I made a big deal out of it and I struggled. The last flight we did, once I realized, just push the pedal. Just do what it takes to get the nose to go where you want. If you overthink it, you have problems. And that's just like a student I've told students that, thousands of times. Quit overthinking it. Because if you're sitting there trying to go left pedal, right pedal, toward this, that, and you think too much, then you sit there and you struggle with it. If you just go, I know the nose, I want the nose to go that way. So just push the pedal, whichever one you need to make it point that way.
And try not to think of like left and right pedal. It's more like which one's your power pedal.
Right.
Just think about which one's your power pedal. That will help you.
Well, I know that in just 3 hours now, I'm kind of digging the aircraft. Just as I learn more about it, and now that I'm getting more comfortable in it, and that third hour really just kind of everything started coming together. And like I said, we're going to do 2 more, and we'll do another video or 2 and do some more videos as I kind of finish up the 5 hours. But I'm really starting to kind of, at first I didn't like it, because, right, we all don't like change, and you're like, it's the new thing, and it's spinning the wrong way, and it's easy to cop an attitude. But now that I've been flying it, I'm kind of digging them. I get the advantages of them, and I get why fly schools are buying them. I understand that. Why don't you touch on, how this is the latest technology and how it does help someone moving into the larger aircraft? Because you've talked about that before.
So as I mentioned earlier, they're still new. I mean, they've been flying over across the pond for years, right, but they're just starting to come over in the U.S. maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe 6, something like that. And as I mentioned, there's only by now there may be 40 of them in the U.S. So they're starting to catch on. Are they ever going to catch Robinsons? I don't know. I don't have any issues with Robinsons. I like flying Robinsons.
Right, me too.
We all know that they're the #1 trainer.
Sure. And they will be for a long time.
Will be for a while. It's just what it is. However, this coming in here, it gives them a good run because we offer, like I said, the fully articulated system. Usually that's a little bit safer. We got the autos and these there's a more of a play there than the R22. Of course, the Robinson's got the governors and all that. But for people that don't know any better and want to try something different, this is a great machine. I really like flying this, and will it take time? Yeah, it's going to take time to compare to the Robinsons. It's a little bit more expensive on initial purchase price, so we have that factored in. A little bit more to operate hourly. However, I don't know what it takes to do an annual on an R22, but I can tell you that an annual on this will be done in 2 days.
Yeah, you've talked about that, how quick the annual is.
When we used to run interims, it would take us 3 weeks.
Oh my God, yeah.
Or maybe even a month to do an annual. This will be done in 2 days. And when this is when this is part of your flight school,
sure,
we can't afford to have an aircraft down for a month.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a nice feature of this. It's heavy on the initial price, but in the long run, we got 45-gallon tank. So burning, I tell my students, just average 10 gallons an hour. And usually it's about 8.5, maybe 9, depending on what you're doing. But if you just budget 10, that's 4 hours of flight time. You're gonna have to stop and go to the bathroom before you run out of fuel. So that's nice. And it's only burning, like I said, it's burning 10 as opposed, I don't know what the Robinsons are burning, I don't remember, but I know the tanks aren't that big. Plus you put a couple people in there.
One thing to mention is from the last video we did, or one of the last videos, was one of our Hogs members. He's a big guy, and you can see in the video how much taller he is than me, and he could get comfortable in here to where the Robinson was just out for him.
That's another
just by nature, it's nothing against Robinson, he just couldn't, he was too tall of a guy and too heavy of a guy to fly the Robinson, so he can't. Yeah. So here's an option for someone that can't fly in it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to say that. We don't have a seat limitation. And ironically, I just spoke with a guy this past week who wants to take a flight, and he weighs 270. We can put him in here. I did the weight and balance. Depending on doors and fuel, we can get him in here. You can't put a 270 in the Robinson. And you're right, that the other guy that we had, we can switch those pedals around, and he's somewhat comfortable.
Sure.
So that's one good thing. Plus, this doesn't have the S-bars like the Robinsons.
Right, that's a plus.
You don't have to worry about that. Now, I would say the one con is that when you go get that first job as an instructor, or that first commercial job, or whatever it's going to be, is you know, people look at you funny still if you look at them and say, I did not train in a Robinson.
Right.
So you're going to have that little bit of a drawback.
Sure.
But, you know, how many of those companies use the 130s and tour? This, if you can fly this, you can fly the 120 and you can fly the 130. This is just a baby version of that.
And I even got high hair, and I want to point out that the headroom, for me, I'm 5'10" and a half. I was 5'11" before my ground residence incident. The doctor said I lost some height in that ordeal. But, so, it being almost 6 foot, I still have a ton of room up here for the headroom. So, you know, for the larger individual where another aircraft may not be on the table, it just may not be available to you, this is. So it's nice that those people have a choice, you know?
And yes, this is a two-seater. That's the other drawback. You know, you can't take multiple people.
Sure.
They are in the process of designing a 4-seat or a 5-seat. So it's in the works. Guimbal, when he designed this, he took his time. He didn't want to rush anything. He wanted to take his time, make sure he had every detail taken care of. He wanted to make sure things were thought out, and he wanted to put a well-designed product out there. And I think he did. And that's the same concept that he's doing with the 4 or 5-seater. It's in design. He wants to take his time. He wants to make sure that, you know, when we met with Precision out at HAI, we spoke with them, and we gave them our thoughts, and you know, they're listening to it. They're listening to the people that have these to put into that feature. What they even asked us, what would you like to see if we had a bigger version? What would you like to see? So it's coming, and when it comes out here, I think that'll, you know, of course they're making it to run with other aircraft, other trainers, but that'll be another nice design when it gets here.
Awesome.
Well, if we miss something, they can always call me.
They can always call you.
Sweet Aviation. SweetAviation.com. Look us up.
All right, so anything else that you want to add, Chris, I know you've hit a lot of the main things that people like and you like about the Cabri. Like I said, I'm kind of digging it. Tell us again where they can find you.
Sweet Aviation. Fort Wayne, Indiana is our home base. We moved our second one to Goshen, Indiana, at the Goshen Airport to try to get into the northern Indiana market. So yeah, we've got 2 locations for you. Look us up, get a hold of us, and we'll get you up and give you a discovery flight.
All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Remember about those PDFs that are down below. Amazon #1 bestsellers. People like those books. You can get the PDF for free. We got a couple more videos coming up with me doing my other 2 hours, and we'll kind of do another one at the end just to see what I think after 5 hours. But at 3 hours, I'm really digging it, and I'm starting to like it. So subscribe to the channel and click the bell that you can be notified of the other videos we'll have coming out very soon with the Cabri, among many other things. So subscribe, click the bell, leave comments down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.
You should definitely get me riding off into the moon, into the paradise.
They'll probably act up if he knows the camera's on.
Are you bringing the power back again? Yeah.
That thing sure is nice to move around in.
I hate those wheels though. I like to get the hard wheels like they have. Except they're like $1,000 a set. Come on, G. Definitely need to be standing right about here. Nice little angle. Oh, we gotta get rid of the hanger. Gotta get rid of the hanger door. Oh yeah, that is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Are you ready? All right.
To fly another day. Helicopterground.com.
Free PDFs, no cost, no charge. They're right down below this video.
Just over 400 hours in the G2.
You know what? I don't have my mic on the effing camera.
Check. Am my mic on? My mic good? My mic good?
That's all right. You got us warmed up.
That was a warm up. Is this what you mean? Like I usually wing it and just go with the shit? Or
Keep talking.
check me? Check it, baby. Check it, baby. Walk in.
Yep. Awesome. Is that all right?
Yeah, we can do that again.
All right. Hey, it's Kenny with Helicopter Airline Ground School here with Chris. You know, I need to start making blooper reels. I really do, because there's been, oh my God, there's so much stuff that would be hilarious.
I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. Come on. Is that how it goes?
That's gonna be on the end of the video.